Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Circus Today, released in 1940. It's the 291st in the series and it's directed by Tex Avery. A restoration has shown up in beautiful high definition, even though there's only the blue ribbon titles. The original titles are believed to be lost except for a cell, so hopefully one day that will show up. But hey, the important thing is we've got the cartoon. Now I can't show you the full thing here on YouTube due to copyright. Warner Brothers will just have it taken down, so unless they put it up on their channel, you're not going to see it here. But in case you haven't seen this one, it's another Spotgate cartoon by Tex Avery, this time showcasing various gags involving what else? A circus. I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory. So in this review, I'm going to go through each and every gag and going through all of the references that you may or may not know and any other interesting bits of information that may come up. So let's go through the short itself. Now this short's a little bit interesting because unlike a lot of Spot Gag shorts where there'll be some sort of narrator, usually Robert C. Bruce, going through everything where he would state one thing and the opposite may happen, here there's no narrator. So the whole short is carried by the characters that we see in each and every gag. Like in the beginning, you have that carnival barker shouting out and that sort of thing. In regards to the voice acting, that circus barker is done by a person by the name of Don Brody. Now, Don Brody is someone I'm not really that familiar with, but looking at his acting credits, looks like he was pretty much a working actor. But he does have a bit of history with Disney. He's actually one of the carnival barkers in the movie Pinocchio. I don't know if Tex Avery heard him there and used him here, or it just could be coincidence, I don't know. But he does voice the devil version of Donald Duck in Donald's Better Self, so he definitely has a history of animation, but yeah, he was pretty much a working actor from what I can see.
Hey, how about a smoke, partner? Go on, smoke it. It'll put hair on your chest. You ain't afraid, are you?
But Mel Blanc does everyone else in this short, and that comes from Keith Scott's wonderful cartoon voices book. So right away we have a reference here that younger people may not be aware of, but we see Jingling Brothers Circus. That's a reference to the Ringling Brothers Circus, which was a prominent circus at the time. And just keep in mind at the time, circuses were filled with various acts, including acrobatics, clowns, and unfortunately, yes, animals, some of which were not treated as well. I'm not going to go into the whole history regarding circuses and their controversial nature. This is a product of its time. Circuses were seen as very whimsical type places where families would go and enjoy a day or night of entertainment. But I love that poster here. It's exactly what you would see if you were to go and visit a circus at around this time. But after we see the carnival barker saying you're going to see some new things, because hey, that's what carnival barkers are there for, right? We see a person selling balloons, which would have been a common sight at circuses, and the way the shot is presented, you kind of know that something's up, and here it's literally up, because as the scene goes on, we see that these balloons are so strong that he's up in the air. Mel Blanc's delivery of help as he clings on to dear life of the balloons is fantastic. Take a close look at the balloons though. It's interesting how the colors all change. I don't know if that's just a cycle thing or not, but it's just an interesting little observation. Doesn't affect the scene or anything. It's just something I noticed, but yeah, it's a nice little gag to start things off. But our first major gag here is Gamer the Glutton, and Gamer appears to be a parody of the effects animator at the time, AC Gamer. I'm not sure why they chose to use his name here, but anyway, it could just be G&G, Gamer the Glutton, whatever. Anyway, so I love the animation here of all the items just going into this gluttonous body the way it is, and the way he has to stretch out his mouth as well. So he ends up taking a bow, you hear the noise of all the stuff that's in his belly. I would hate to think what would happen later on when he needs to go to the toilet, but oh well, better not to overthink these things, right?
Take your bow.
So next up we see Hotfoot Hogan, which seems to be a similar character design from Amateur Night. It's a similar sort of character. But Hotfoot Hogan, that's a reference to Rich Hogan, who was a writer in the Tex Avery unit, and he would actually go with him over to MGM as well. But we all know what's going to happen here. It's going to be all serious, and then we all know that he's just going to struggle with walking across the hot coal. But I like the way it's done here. You get the close-up of the hot coals, and even in the background, you got the painted foot. I like that shot there, and you see the tension building up where he's about to walk on it, and then you got the funny animation of him bouncing along, and then the poise at the end where he thinks he's done a good job.
10 times daily for the past 17 years. All right, Hotfoot. Oh, ow, 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 ow.
But as we dissolve to the next scene, for whatever reason, the cell of Hotfoot Hogan disappears. I'm not sure why that error is in there, but it's definitely not a restoration error. It was definitely present beforehand, and I've seen this in an unrestored print as well. It's just a very bizarre thing. Maybe it just cost too much money to reshoot. I don't know. And for the next gag, we have yet another studio reference, but this one is actually more closely modeled to what the person being referenced actually looks like. We have Captain Clampett, a reference to director and, of course, animator Bob Clampett. And it actually looks like him. Yeah. At least at the time, in any case, although he's got a helmet on here, so his trademark hair wouldn't have shown through. But it's one of those things that they just probably did for laughs in the studio, and I doubt the audiences even knew or cared, but they would have definitely enjoyed the gag here, which, again, we know what's going to happen, especially if you've seen a lot of these, but it's all about now whether the gag is executed effectively, and I think it is. You've got the fact that he's shot in the air, it's about 5 seconds later, and he lands, and of course, he's been all over the world, and we hear the musical reference in the background as There's No Place Like Home. So that's one powerful canon there. You know, it always amazes me when people say, oh, Bruce Freeling reused a lot of jokes. Well, he did, but he would end up improving things over time. But Avery did the same thing as well, and this gag here is one of those. He did this twice before. He did it once in A Day at the Zoo. And in cross-country detours.
Listen, stupid! Can't you read?
Here, though, he tries something a little bit different, and I love the animation where this mild-mannered person is looking around, making sure no one's watching him as he's about to feed this monkey. You have to wonder why even bother going through this effort. What's so important? Why does he need to feed this monkey? I don't know, but it's just so funny the way it's done. On one article, Devin Baxter notes that this may have been animated by Rod Scribner. He's not 100% sure, but I can see that it could be if you look at the actual animation itself, but that's who he thinks might have done this scene. But instead of the previous gags in those other two shorts where it's like, hey, can't you read? Here, it's a little different where the monkey is basically yelling out for the police where, hey, this person's a lawbreaker, which basically he is, isn't he? He's feeding the monkeys where he shouldn't do so under penalty of the law.
Help! Police! Lawbreaker! Lawbreaker! I got him! I got him! Lawbreaker! Police! Police! Policeman!
And at the very end, you even get that small little touch of the monkey saying, look, look, look. Look what I did. I'm a good monkey, aren't I? It's possibly my favorite gag in this one, or one of them at least. It's just the timing of it. Fantastic. The next gag has a basis where it's long lost to time. A lot of people wouldn't be aware of it, and that's why this joke might fall flat today. But, you know, it involves a stork, which sounds a little bit like Bugs Bunny, who's going to premiere in a few cartoons after this one, and of course, Tex Avery directed that one.
Hello? Yes, but... I know, but... Yes, but... Well, I tried... Maybe... I tried to... But... Well, I'll try again. That's Eddie Cantor still pestering me for a boy.
He's on the phone, he's saying, but, we're thinking, who's on the other line? And as the stork mentions, it's Eddie Cantor pestering him for a boy. The gag there is that Eddie Cantor had 5 girls, he wanted a son, and it was a running bit on a lot of radio shows, and it was even the focus of a Bob Clampett Porky Pig short where there was an Eddie Cantor bird, wanting a boy and all that. So it was a running gag at the time. Audiences would have gotten a kick out of it, but these days, this joke will probably fall flat. But I like the animation of the stork, especially those jowls on the side of the beak. The next gag, again, if you've seen enough of these Spot Gag shorts, you know what to expect, but I gotta be fair to these because this might be the first Spot Gag cartoon someone's watched ever, and audiences at the time would not have watched these things back to back to back, so I have to be fair. And so I'm just focusing on the execution, even if I know how the gag's gonna go. So you know that this gorilla, he's been painted as this mean, vicious 2,000-pound force of nature, basically. And there's going to be a big contrast at the end. And he just stops and says, "How do you do?" and looks all bashful.
Darling, growling 2,000 pounds of hate and fury.
How do you do?
So that's a reference to the Bert Gordon Mad Russian character that once Clampett took over this unit, he used that "how do you do" gag a lot. And he even had that as an antagonist against Bugs Bunny in one short where he had a Mad Russian dog. And that's basically where that all comes from.
How do you do?
So next up, we see a slightly more extended gag involving the flying cadenzas. And of course, they literally fly. Ha ha. But anyway, it's kind of amusing. I just love the animation of them flying up towards the trapeze. But this is a very dark gag. They get up there, and when they do one of the maneuvers, one of the flying cadenzas falls down. I don't know why he didn't just start flying again, but anyway, he ends up falling to his death, and one of them puts up a sign saying "Partner Wanted." So this group appears to be a reference to the Flying Wallenders, and I was surprised to see that they still are going even to this day. They started in the 20s, and they've existed ever since, and they have a massive family tree. I'm not going to go too much into it, but definitely look them up because it's quite impressive, actually, that this act has just continued on for many decades. It's amazing. And the gag with one of the performers falling to his death, and that's a reference not so much that any one of them has actually died in such a way. I haven't looked too into if any members have fallen to their death or not, because this is an act that's known for doing acrobatics without a safety net. So that would be what the gag is referring to, that these were daredevil stunt performers that would do these amazing trapeze acts and tightrope acts and that sort of thing, but without a net. So now we see a bit of a rodeo bit where we see Miss Dixie Dare, who's going to snatch a handkerchief from the ground with her teeth while on horseback. And this bit looks rotoscope, so I'm not sure where they got this footage from. Is it from a movie or some B-roll material? I don't know, but definitely looks rotoscope to me. But the gag, it's fine. She tries to grab it and she has dentures. So it is what it is. I mean, I thought it was funny, but in a very corny, weird kind of way. So some have said that this is based off of a real, what's known as a rodeo clown named Dixie Rieger. And there's a whole article about her, and I'm reading up on it, and I'm not sure if that's entirely who they're referencing here, but it definitely looks like it, especially given when her career was, which was in the late 30s. So if you guys know more about the reference here, definitely let me know, but that's what it looks like. And I can definitely see how someone would come to that conclusion even if it wasn't the case. And we get another horse-related gag, Madame Trixie and her dancing horse. Now, I couldn't see if this was related to a person around this time, but there were usually a lot of women in the circuses that would train these horses to basically do these movements that look like that they're actually dancing. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing regarding the nature of making animals do the same maneuvers like that day in, day out. But that's what it was at the time. And that was a common thing. And over the years, that the movements would just get more elaborate. I guess the different circuses wanted to outdo each other to get the people to come in and see their show because they have the best acts and that sort of thing. So here, you think it's going to be like a dainty dance move, and that's what you would expect, but no, it turns into a dance of Sweet Georgia Brown, and a wonderful rendition too, by the way. It's not only a great song, but I love the rendition here. And unlike the previous scene, it looks like here it's not rotoscoped, and the way it's done, I wonder who animated this. Just the way it was done, and look at the horse just going around in a 360-degree movement. It's incredible. It really is. I think what sells it for me is just the look of the trainer's face. I think she wasn't even expecting that this horse was going to dance to Sweet Georgia Brown. I'm not sure who's playing the song, but anyway, it's a funny little scene. I've always loved the next scene involving the lion, and this one you sort of expect, you don't expect, but in any case, I love the build-up of it. Yes, it's another one of those unfortunate things where they were training lions to do these sort of things against their natural instincts, but in any case, it is what it is. So the lion tamer is showing off his dominance against the lion, and that would have been the big draw at the time, this big brave man against the beast of the jungle, that sort of thing. And one of the things that they would do, and this was an actual trick that they would try and do with a trained lion, was to put their head in the mouth of a lion. And that's just to show off their mastery over the king of the jungle. But in the twist, the lion seems to get the idea, I'm going to do the same thing to the trainer, and I just love how he stretches out his mouth and puts his head in. But all this lead up to it, I just love the animation acting here. So you've got the fact that you got the trainer looking the lion straight into the eye, the lion's looking all confused, he sits up, and then the trainer puts his head inside the lion's mouth. But then the lion hears the applause, he's sort of thinking, oh, okay, everyone's applauding this. Hey, I got an idea, I'm going to do the same thing. And sure enough, he does. The trainer looks all puzzled, but hey, at least the lion's happy, and that's probably the happiest it'll be, considering the conditions of the circus at the time, but anyway. And the name of this lion tamer, Captain Clyde Bender, appears to be reference to a real-life lion tamer who was quite popular at the time, Clyde Beatty, and he would be at a different circus, not Ringling, or in this case Jingling, but anyway, he'd be at the Cole Brothers Circus. At one point, when it comes to circus performers, some of them were as popular as the bigger celebrities at the time, which is incredible to think. These days, circuses are barely even around anymore. So now we have the elephant gag, and it starts off with, okay, Avery's done this before, where it would be like these big elephants and then a small little one in the middle and so on. And it's cute, it's fine. But I love the name of the trainer at the end for some reason. I don't know why he's biting on the tail of the elephant. Got a bit of a chuckle out of that. But I love the name, Ignaz Ignazovich. I don't know if that's referring to anyone. I really did look it up, but I can't seem to find anyone. So if you have an idea, definitely let me know in the comments. But the whole gag here is he's going to allow an elephant to place its weight of 13,876 tons. I mean, that's one big elephant, of course, on his head. And no, elephants do not weigh that much. They're heavy, but not that much. But in any case, but remember what I said before about repeating gags? Well, here it is again from Cross Country Detours, where you got the whole, I can't do it, I just can't do it, which Tex Avery himself even acted out and was used in the previous short, so I guess they reused it here.
I can't do it! I can't! I can't go through with it! I can't! I can't! I can't do it! I can't go through with it! I can't do it! I can't!
There's nothing wrong with reusing something, and here it actually does work, even if you're familiar with the gag from Cross Country Detours. And lastly, we have the final gag, which takes a whopping 2 minutes, but thankfully, the 2 minutes is well spent here because of all the build-up and the way it's directed. It probably, I'd say my second favorite gag, maybe, first favorite, I don't know, it depends on my mood, I suppose. I think the only thing that ruins this gag really is that we've already had a Morbid gag before, and this is another Morbid gag as well in the same short, but taken on its own, it's amazing. So, we see here Count Boris Sleepov, who's a daredevil here, but I'm not sure if it's based on any character, but daredevils were very commonplace to circuses that they'll do all these death-defying stunts to please the audiences, so it could be anyone, really. But if there is anyone specific that Avery may have based this person off, definitely let me know in the comments. But I like how it starts off building things up. So you have him taking off a ridiculous amount of robes, just keeps going and going until finally he's in the thing that he's going to be diving off. So he's going to now do a 5,462-foot leap into a small barrel of water. And honestly, guys, I'm in Australia. We don't use feet here, really, so I would assume that that's very, very high, much higher than what a circus tent would actually be. But my goodness, I love how it just pans up, then pans down, just showing everyone the dizzying heights that this stuntman is having to deal with when diving into that small bucket of water. And as we all know, this is not going to be the last time that a Looney Tunes short is going to have something to do with diving into a small bucket of water, right? Plenty of them out there. So we see that the band plays over the waves, and we keep building the tension up and up and up. And then the stuntman starts his dive, and the band stops. So the drummer then does the drum roll, but we don't see the end result of this dive, and we assume that this stuntman has fallen to his death, based on the reaction of the conductor here. I just love the facial expressions of this conductor, just looking on in horror, really, if you look at his face, and he says, "Okay, Joe, take it." And then we hear taps, and we know exactly what's happened to this stuntman. Again, it's a second Morbid joke in the short, which already had a Morbid joke, but it's still funny. I like it. Alright, so we took a look at this short from start to finish, and how does this compare to some of the other Spot Gag shorts? I'd say it's around the middle, maybe upper middle. This one's one of the better ones. Because with Avery, when it comes to his Spot Gag shorts, some of them, of course, are going to be better than others. You know, you got Cross Country Detours as one of the better ones, and A Gander at Mother Goose as being one of the lesser ones. So this one's kind of in the middle, upper middle kind of thing, at least in my opinion. But that's the thing with these Spot Gag shorts. People may have seen different ones at different times, so this one might be their favorite. Gander and Mother the Goose might be their favorite. And yet I thought it was very tired. So it's just one of those things. But look, this one gets a 7.5 out of 10. Most of the gags are funny, and there's a few real standouts here, and there's a few tired gags. But again, I can't really hold against Avery, because at the end of the day, these were not designed to be binge-watched, and just because I know the outcome of a gag, or I can see something coming, doesn't mean that the audiences at the time knew what was coming, so there's that as well. But it's a fun short, and I hope this makes its way on physical media someday. At the time of this recording, it's not, but who knows? After I record this, maybe they'll make an announcement. I don't know. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Hey, Joe, take it.